We all know that actors get very close when working on a movie, but sometimes they're so close that they share the same home. Actors often play the part of roommates, family members, or just very close friends, but sometimes this does not end on screen, with a number of high-profile actors and celebrities at one point bunking with one another. It's a weird thought, but sometimes actors shared the same living room and argued over whose turn it was to take out the trash. In this video, we'll look at 25 times Hollywood stars were roommates with one another, from sharing accommodations while studying at university, helping out a co-star after their lease has expired, and getting into character by living with one another. These are 25 times actors were roommates that you probably never knew about.
You guys all think I'm a hero, and I'll accept that responsibility.
Matt Damon and Ben Affleck are famous for being best friends who broke onto the scene together with their debut feature movie Good Will Hunting. But not only did they just star in the movie together, but they also wrote it, and the two even went as far as renting a house on Venice Beach as they worked on the movie. The duo would invite hundreds of people to their house and throw lavish parties until they eventually ran out of money and moved out. But the duo remained living together, moving from place to place in LA until they finally finished the script. Their careers have skyrocketed since then, and they certainly have no problems affording a place to live in now, and I assume now live separately, although we'd like to believe that they've got a secret tunnel that unites their houses. You may not have been surprised learning that Matt Damon and Ben Affleck lived together, but you may be surprised to learn that Iron Man and Jack Bauer once lived together. The MCU star Robert Downey Jr. and the 24 star Kiefer Sutherland reportedly shared an apartment together in LA for 3 years as they looked to find their way in Hollywood. Apparently, the two were such good friends that Downey Jr. said that Kiefer acted as a shoulder to cry on after Downey Jr. broke up with Sex and the City star Sarah Jessica Parker. But like Damon and Affleck, seeing as Downey Jr. made $75 million for Avengers Endgame, he doesn't really need to share an apartment with Sutherland, although he now shares his Malibu home with llamas and alpacas. True story. Before Ryan Gosling and Justin Timberlake made it big, they both starred as youngsters on the all-new Mickey Mouse Club. But with Gosling being from Ontario, Canada, he needed a place to stay, so he ended up living with JT and his family for 6 months in the early 90s. Apparently, the two got on like a house on fire, so well in fact that they would cause trouble together, with JT admitting that the pair stole a golf cart together. Now, I want to see the movie version of that. Gosling also lived briefly with his Blue Valentine co-star Michele Williams, believing it would make the chemistry between them more dramatic, which arguably turned out to be true. For some reason, despite only recently learning this, it feels like something I've known forever, and that is the fact that This Is Us actor Milo Ventimiglia once lived with You actor Penn Badgley. I don't know why it's so unsurprising, but one of the reasons might be because they look somewhat similar, something which apparently worked out well for Badgley. Badgley is 10 years Ventimiglia's junior and apparently used to borrow Ventimiglia's ID when he was 18 so he could get into bars with the bartenders, obviously believing that they were the same person. Apparently Badgley still got Ventimiglia's ID, although I hope he doesn't still use it now. Plus, I doubt Ventimiglia was too thrilled about Badgley telling everyone he participated in a minor crime. Another fact, which is for some inexplicable reason arguably unsurprising, is the fact that Amazing Spider-Man's Andrew Garfield, Fantastic Beasts' Eddie Redmayne, and 50 Shades of Grey's Jamie Dornan all once shared an apartment in LA. Apparently, the three Brits created their own home away from home, with the trio becoming friends after regularly seeing each other at auditions. The life of a struggling actor isn't quite glamorous, with them having to split a sandwich between them, but the three amigos managed to stay afloat before eventually making it big, all the while staying good mates. Speaking of top British actors who were roommates before making it big, none other than Obi-Wan Kenobi and Albus Dumbledore used to share a room. Before they founded the theater company Natural Nylon, both Ewan McGregor and Jude Law used to live together. Not only did they live in the same apartment, but they lived in the same room, with the two of them sleeping in a bunk bed. If you were wondering who had the top bunk, we all know it was Ewan McGregor because he always has the high ground. The only thing Owen Wilson has collaborated with more than the word wow is the master of quirk, Grand Budapest Hotel director Wes Anderson. Wilson has been a constant muse for Anderson, with him appearing in a number of Anderson's movies. But their history goes a long way back. Not only did they make it big together with Anderson's first feature film, Bottle Rocket, but they also studied together when they were roommates as students at the University of Texas. The only thing we can say to that is, wow. While a lot of actors mostly got along when they lived together and remain friends today, the same cannot be said in regards to Winona Ryder and Gwyneth Paltrow. The two apparently used to live together in the 90s before the two engaged in a bitter feud, and no, it isn't because either of them forgot to replace the toilet paper or because they were too loud while watching WWE. Rumor has it that the actual reason the two fell out was because Paltrow found the script for Shakespeare in Love lying around the apartment and auditioned for the role, which she subsequently got and even won an Oscar for. It wasn't Gwyneth's script. So yeah, that would probably do it. But just putting that out there, this is not confirmed. Actors don't just live with one another before they're famous, but sometimes one lives with a famous actor before they even got their big break. Before he made a name for himself, Ed Sheeran was a struggling musician mostly performing on the streets, but eventually his name got to Django Unchained star Jamie Foxx, who thought Ed was talented, but wanted to see him for himself to make his final decision, so he invited Ed to stay at his house, which is exactly what he did, with Ed sleeping on Jamie Foxx's couch for 6 weeks. Really, Jamie, you couldn't have gotten him a bed? Jamie even took Ed out to bars where he performed and quickly became a mainstream success. Oh, and to all of you saying, Ed Sheeran isn't an actor, he's a musician. Hey. He did make a cameo in Game of Thrones and as himself in Danny Boyle's Yesterday, so we're taking it on a technicality. While we've made jokes about trivial roommate arguments in the video, one of these trivial arguments did actually occur between two stars and made them quickly realize that they were incompatible to be roommates. Accepted stars Jonah Hill and Justin Long were at one point roommates, but did not see eye to eye, with a great deal of tension between the two actors. Apparently, one of the arguments was over recycling. Long complained that Hill recycled everything, as well as being quite messy and left the bathroom door open. You know, now I'm really interested in seeing a reboot of Hill and Long in The Odd Couple. That would be pretty interesting. Before Gilmore Girls became the cultural phenomenon it is today, and before it posed the question, are you Team Dean, Team Jesse, or Team Logan, to which there is only real one right answer, that's Team Jesse. The show's star, Lauren Graham, was a struggling actress, trying to make ends meet with Parenthood actress Connie Britton. Apparently, the apartment had almost no furniture, and the two survived off of Rice Krispie treats. A balanced and healthy diet. Thankfully for the two of them, their careers have since blown up, and now Rice Krispie treats can stay just as treats, and not a means of staying alive. While most of these actors have been roommates in the conventional sense, the living situation between Raven Simone and Lindsay Lohan was a little different. Apparently, the two struck up a friendship during a photo shoot and decided that they should live together. Well, at least one of them did. According to Raven, she hardly saw her supposed roommate, who apparently would only be there 3 times in a week, and left it mostly to be a giant wardrobe. She did pay her share of rent though, so it wasn't all bad. I guess when you've got money, why not get yourself a giant wardrobe? While they were seemingly enemies on screen, Glee stars Lea Michele and Diana Agron were apparently good friends off of it. Such good friends that apparently the two lived together while filming the first season, rehearsing together and genuinely planning out the season. Some rumors have emerged that the two developed an eventual feud, but as of right now, the rumor is just that. We now come to one of the strangest and surprising entries on the list, and while one of them may not be an actor, it's almost too good to ignore. Men in Black and No Country for Old Men star Tommy Lee Jones used to live for 4 years with presidential candidate Al Gore. The two were students together at Harvard and would apparently spend a lot of time with one another, and when they weren't studying for exams or doing other scholarly activities, the two would shoot pool and watch Star Trek together. The two are apparently still close to this day and still have a brilliant bromance. James Corden may be best known as the host of the talk show The Late Late Show, but the Cats, Into the Woods, and Gavin and Stacey actor once shared a room with Preacher star Dominic Cooper. When Cooper made an appearance on Corden's show, the two reminisced of their life together in London, where they lived with little to no furniture, and their only piece of cutlery was a spatula. Cooper went on to say that Corden once caught Cooper in an act of desperation eating baked beans with that spatula. While that might be embarrassing, it's still not as embarrassing as starring in Cats. Is that too soon? Before Sandler was the household name he is today, he was apparently living in LA with writer, director, and sometimes actor Judd Apatow. The two collaborated on a few projects. Firstly, Apatow's series Undeclared, but have continued to work together over the years, even when they haven't been roommates, with Sandler starring in Apatow's Funny People. Although Sandler wasn't quite so keen to fly the coop though, and even after he moved to New York and made it onto SNL, he continued to pay his rent back in LA with Apatow, just in case his career bombed. I'm sure Apatow was really upset about getting free rent money. Probably one of the sweetest relationships between actors who were roommates belongs to the relationship between Superman himself, Christopher Reeve, and comedic legend Robin Williams. They used to live together in New York and were apparently very close. So close, in fact, that they both made a promise to one another that if one of them got big, they would help the other one out. It's unclear whether either did end up helping each other out, but one thing that is certain is that their careers certainly blew up. The two stayed very close, and had a brotherly bond, with Williams even helping Reeve after his accident, even pulling a prank on him in the hospital to cheer him up. They stayed friends until Reeve's passing in 2004. Star actresses and usual Coen brothers collaborators Holly Hunter and Frances McDormand aren't just friends, but also former roommates. The two apparently met back at Yale, where they became close, working together on a number of different assignments and eventually moved in together. But they did not want to end the dream team there and moved into an apartment together in New York until after they left university, before working in a number of movies together. Another friendship that's lasted the tests of time is the friendship between Wall Street's Michael Douglas and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia star Danny DeVito. Before Douglas moved to Wall Street and DeVito moved to Philadelphia, the two were roommates in New York City as they started out their careers. On the subject, Douglas said that DeVito was one of the neatest people he'd ever met, and that he was his oldest friend in the business, and I don't know why, but I find that very heartwarming. I really needed that today. Two other classic movie legends who used to live together are some of the best actors in the business, The Conversation star Gene Hackman and The Graduate's Dustin Hoffman. The two ended up sharing an apartment in New York before their careers grew, and were apparently also good friends with fellow actor Robert Duvall, who Hoffman also ended up living with. Like Corden, Conan O'Brien is known for being a talk show host, but before the Lego Batman actor and former Simpsons writer made audiences across the world familiar with his famous ginger swoop, he was a struggling comedian living in Chicago, where he shared an apartment with Curb Your Enthusiasm star Jeff Garland. From what it sounds like, it was a fun place to be, with the two of them workshopping their comedy, with Garland continually breaking off into skits and encouraging Conan to join him. He would also slam open Conan's door at 3 a.m. and yell, "It's puddin' pop time." To be honest though, when is it not puddin' pop time? Apparently, Aloha stars Bradley Cooper and Emma Stone barely saw each other outside of filming the movie on location in Hawaii, but when Cooper's lease expired, Stone offered for him to stay at her place, giving him a whole section of the house and his own enclave, which is generous. Hey Emma, if you're looking for another housemate, I'm looking for a new place, just want to put that out there. The two remained housemates till the end of shooting, when Cooper presumably went off to move in with his sidekick Groot. Ever wondered what living with Brad Pitt was like? Very fun apparently, and somewhat smelly. That is according to Beverly Hills 90210 actor Jason Priestley, who used to live with Brad Pitt. Priestley said that the two would constantly have competitions on who would go the longest without showering or shaving, with Brad always winning. Although I would hazard a guess that none of them could beat me. I haven't showered or shaved since COVID started. Ever wonder why Ving Rhames goes by Ving and not Irving? No? Just me? Okay. Anyway, rumor has it that this occurred when Ving Rhames shared an apartment with fellow actor Stanley Tucci when the two lived in New York together while studying at Purchase College. Stanley reportedly gave Rhames the nickname Ving, which if true has continued to stick around to this day. A lot can happen in 6 years. We've had like 5 Star Wars films in that time, and things can drastically change. Alana Glazer and Rachel Bloom are no stranger to that. The two were roommates in Brooklyn, where they would buy almond butter from the farmer's market. Now they both have their own successful TV shows, Broad City and Crazy Ex-Girlfriend respectively, showing us how quickly things can change.
So where is it you sleep?
What?
Which apartment's yours?
Which one of these shocked you the most? Did you know them all? Any that we missed? Let us know in the comments below and make sure to subscribe to Screen Rant for more great content. See ya!